Hey everybody, welcome back. HSC Podcast 130. We're going dark today. We'll get that fixed next time. I got Big Box Steve on the mic, got the Big Smooth, and no Fresh West. But a crazy week in, football. So we're going to start with that. And so we'll jump into it right away, talk about some NFL, and then we'll wrap it up with college football, talk a little fantasy, which the HSC Podcast Fantasy is getting real interesting.
It's a very tight race.
Yeah, with some, that though, if I hadn't lost there, I wouldn't be worried, but losing this week that's pretty tough.
Tell me, well, yeah, considering you almost lost last week too, if it wasn't for Burrow and Chase.
Right,
And then if I didn't lose by point 0.5 points, I would be like sitting pretty right now too. But now I'm stressing.
right. I mean, coming up playoffs is going to be fun to watch, and we'll see what happens. Man, but all of us are in the playoffs right now, but
Yeah.
there's still two games to go.
Yeah, if we win out, we're in.
Yeah.
We control our own destiny.
It's like football, except not real.
Right.
It's a fake football. So let's jump into last week's football. Like we did not have the best week.
No.
Um, and you were 7-6. I was 6-7. But and Holly beat us again at 9-4. So apparently, if you just pick the favorite every time, you're gonna win overall, I guess. So
Oh, whoop.
starting off with the first week, Cleveland and Pittsburgh. That was a crazy game.
Oh, whoops. I messed up. I was 8-5.
No, so you got two games again on me.
Yeah, I
That's
didn't
awesome.
realize didn't mark the Texans winning.
Well, the Texans didn't win.
Oh, did they lose?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Then I
yeah,
was in seven and
7-6. Yeah, because I mean we all had Houston.
I'm just trying to get 4, 5. I'm just looking at all the teams that were favored to see how Holly got 9.
Well, I lost the Cleveland game, but Minnesota, Detroit,
Um,
Miami,
oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Tampa.
10 favorites won.
Yeah, yeah. So that's where we're at right now. Where apparently, like I said, you just pick the favorite and you're gonna win.
Right.
But that's not points, and I try to bring that up, and now I'm like, oh, you don't.
Tell her to go on a betting app and see how she
Right,
does.
right. Well, it's money line is different, especially if you're betting the favorites. You're not going to win a lot, right?
Right.
But yeah, going back there, that Pittsburgh Cleveland, that was like the start of the week where I think we all lost. Like everybody had Pittsburgh,
Well,
but
and to be fair, when we pick games, we don't know about injuries. So it's like, how did we know Brock Purdy wasn't going to play
yeah.
in that 49ers Packers game? Because no one would have picked the 49ers if we knew Purdy wasn't playing.
Well, and yeah, exactly. And then of course, CMC doesn't have a great game either. So
Yeah.
I think that's the first snow game though, right?
Yeah, it
Pittsburgh,
was
Cleveland.
awesome.
Yeah, it's
I
it's
didn't
fun to
really,
watch.
I didn't care about that game, and then I saw it was snowing, and then I was like, gonna watch it now.
Yeah. What do you think about Russell Wilson? Is he staying starting quarterback for the
Well, it
rest of the
wasn't the
year?
offense's issues, it was defense. They just couldn't stop Cleveland.
Right.
It was kind of crazy watching that game. You would have thought the snow would have been a detriment on offense, but it wasn't. Both teams were going up and down the field.
Yeah, 270 for Russell, 220 for Winston.
I mean, but they had
A lot of
lots of big
fumbles though.
plays.
Do you see the fumbles?
Yeah, well, that's expected.
Yeah, 8 fumbles though. Oh, yeah, in the snow, of course, but
Well, and it was the snow and not, you know what I mean? It's weird because it was no snow until middle of the third quarter.
right. Yeah, then start just raining down. But that was a big loss to start for both of us. And then there was some crazy games. So two games. You think about the Washington Dallas game,
Yeah,
Chicago Minnesota game, right? So Chicago misses a field goal, but then comes back, kicks a onside kick, scores 11 points in a minute, gets into overtime. Minnesota
it
gets the
doesn't do
field goal to
anything.
win. But how many times do you see 11 points scored in a minute?
Well, that was crazy. At the same time, while that was going on, you had the Commanders game, which
Right.
was insane.
What'd you think about that Terry McLaurin catch?
Ugh. Well, it wasn't even like he just caught it and then just ran and no one even
Right.
talked. I mean, it wasn't like a crazy catch or anything like that.
No, it was a short pass.
Yeah,
He just ran it for another what, 30, 40 yards.
right. At that point, West was going to lose to Big Mike.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, he got like a 50-point swing all of a sudden with those two players. So, yeah. And then to go and miss the extra point.
Missed the extra point. That's what was
Oh,
crazy. How do you miss an extra point? Wes had said, talked about going for two. As a coach, what would you do?
I'd have kicked the extra point. I
Yeah,
mean, for me, you only go for two and you think, oh, well, we don't have like, if you're the Panthers against the Chiefs,
right.
you go for two because you don't want to go to overtime with Mahomes, right? I mean, when you're going into overtime with a team that's superior, you'd rather try to win before going to overtime. See, like the Commanders, you know that they would probably have won in overtime.
Does your current record have anything to do with that though? Like when you're like the Commanders, for example, they're what, 7-4,
Right.
and then so does your record change the fact of would you go for two? So if you're, you know, 6-6 or whatever, right? Or 6-5 or 4-5-6, either way. Does that change when you go for two?
Well, for me, this is what irritates me about analytics. Analytics isn't like it's like the what was it what was the old college football rankings system, you know? It's all data and everything like that, but it's not feeling and how the game is going.
Yeah.
So if you're a coach and you're seeing your team and you're like, "Man, we don't look good at all. We're barely making it. We better get out of here. Let's go for two." If you're other ways, like I got confidence we can go in and we can win in overtime.
Right.
So for me, unless you're someone like Dan Campbell or something that says, okay, we've got Montgomery and Gibbs, we can easily get a 2-point conversion. Usually
Or
I'd
John Harbaugh going for it in his like own 20.
yeah. Did you see the thing? It was awesome. It was like Charger fans don't like to see that when a
No,
coach actually does it and succeeds.
right.
Well, but you have Derrick Henry, right?
Well, that's a guaranteed. At this point, what we know about Derrick Henry is you're guaranteed 2 yards after contact.
Right.
So he's 2.5 yards after contact for the season.
That's crazy.
It is. It's the most insane. And was an interesting stat, and I was kind of looking at that about Baltimore. They They're averaging almost 7 yards a play for the season.
That's crazy.
See, they're above and they could beat Greatest Show on Turf, which is like 6.8, 6.9. You're talking about, Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, Marshawn Falk, with what's his name, quarterback having the best,
Kurt
Kurt Warner
Warner.
having the best season that he's ever had, and still a running team from Baltimore might be beating that.
Well, I
That's
think,
all Derrick Henry.
well, yeah, Lamar has already surpassed his passing yards from last year.
Right.
From last year, where he was MVP.
And now you add Derrick Henry rushing for, 5, 6 yards to carry.
Well, and that's the other thing. It's like if you got Lamar Jackson being able to throw the ball, and then if whatever he wants to do, he can just. How many times in that game did he just decide, I'm going to scramble around a bit and then find someone wide open?
Yeah. What do you think Derrick Henry's rush yards per rush is right now?
6.3.
Let's see what it is. Derrick Henry stats. Um, well, they're not going to give. Oh, 6.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you're right there. How are you rushing for? This is his highest average for his career.
Well, yeah, because he's been on the best team he's ever been on.
Right.
Well, just think about that. So he had 24 carries for 140 yards, and then Justice Hill had 4 for 55.
Well, he had the 51
And he
yard
had that big
touchdown.
run, 51
Right.
yarder. But still, they took Derrick Henry out. It's like, Tennessee would never would have done that.
Right. Yeah, it's not even close. It's like the last time was 2020, he had the 5.4 yard average, but normally he's 4 to 5 max.
Well, yeah, because normally he's getting tackled in the backfield because their lines have been
Yeah,
so
don't have a
bad.
good line. Touchdowns is crazy for him though. He's got 103 touchdowns in 8 years. And given his first 2 years, he only had 10 touchdowns combined.
Yeah.
He's fumbling a lot this year though. Three fumbles.
So could this be the year of the running back? Could you have MVP running back, Heisman running back?
Oh, that's a good question. So I don't know what you think, but I think at this point Saquon has to be the MVP. I know Derrick Henry's done a lot, but the what Saquon's doing right now for Philly is pretty crazy.
Right. But that's the thing is when I brought up thinking Derrick Henry is running back for MVP, you didn't go, well, this quarterback should be. You brought up another
Right.
running back.
No, I'm thinking Saquon. Right, right. So
Right.
you're talking about two running backs right now that should be MVPs.
Right.
I don't college for a second. College has always been a problem because there's no way you can compare what Travis Hunter has done to Austin Genty in college. It's not even close. I get it. Hunter is good in multiple positions, but what Genty's doing at running back is definitely way more Heisman worthy.
Well, he's already shattering Derrick Henry's Heisman. Remember, Henry won the Heisman,
Right.
and Gentry's already shattered that.
How much do you think him playing for Boise State has to do with that, though? Like the questions.
You mean like the competition?
Well, where they're questioning because if he was playing for, Ohio State or Alabama right now, there'd be no question.
Right, exactly. I think the only reason there is question is because of the hype train of Colorado and Travis Hunter.
Right.
And they're like, "Oh, look, he plays both sides." I saw a stat that because Troy Edwards 1 year for Louisiana Tech played both ways, and his stats destroy Travis Hunter's.
But his receiving stats were just ridiculous.
Right.
But his defensive stats weren't as good as Travis
Well,
Hunter's.
Travis Hunter has one more interception.
Right. But also like pass defended and things like
Right.
that. You're not throwing at Travis Hunter. That's just the reality.
Right. But when Charles Woodson won, it was because he did like receiver, punt
Right.
returning, shut down corner.
That for me, that's a better comparison when you look at Woodson and Hunter. And then you say, look, Woodson did way more other things. Special teams was more effective on defense, in my opinion. Um, so that's a good comparison. And I don't think Hunter compares to what Woodson did.
No. And the
So
thing
that's why I
too,
don't think Woodson or Hunter should win it. I think at this point, you're not going to see Genty, he's not going to fall off. We're at the end of the season.
yeah, as long as Boise State keeps winning.
Right.
That's the thing is as long as he keeps winning, then he'll get more. The
So,
problem is Colorado just lost. They got two losses.
oh, the Big 12 is a nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to know until the 11th hour.
Well, what I read that yeah, basically if they all win out, and this is the crazy one, if they all win out, it's Iowa State and Arizona State,
Arizona State, which is nuts.
which they come out, both of those came out of nowhere.
Well, Iowa State had a great start to the season because
Right.
they're ranked almost top 10. Remember they
Yeah.
lost. They were like, I mean, 12th, something like that, maybe higher. But what was that game Iowa State lost? That was a big one. Um, was it on a missed field goal or a blocked field goal? There's something that Iowa State, it was just like they
They lost to
lost that game.
Texas Tech 23-22.
Yeah, that was the game, like I think turned it for them because I thought they would been win the Big 12 at that point. But when they lost that Texas Tech
Well, they lost
game,
to Texas Tech by one and then lost to Kansas the next week.
right.
Lost two in a row.
But that Texas Tech, that's like a motivation killer.
Yeah.
And Kansas, like they haven't been great, but they're not an easy team to play, especially with what's his name, Neal, that running back dude.
Yeah.
That guy's a beast.
Well, consider this. Kansas just has beaten Iowa State, BYU, and Colorado all in a
Right.
row.
What do you think about Neal, that Kansas running back, going in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only one that's going in the first round is Genty, but
Right.
I can see.
Probably mid first round.
Well, they still have Genty going to the Cowboys, which is crazy.
But that's like 15. Oh, well, I guess now
No,
it's
it's like
not.
11.
Yeah, it's moved up a few with their, but then they won again. The Cowboys are going to kill it. The Cowboys are nuts. They just they can't like either you win or you lose. You can't just keep going mid every time and not get good players.
Right. Yeah, right now it's the Giants, the Raiders, the Jags, Patriots, Browns, Panthers, Jets, Titans, Bears. Bears got another top 10 pick right now. Bengals, Saints, and then Cowboys, 12. So right now they're 12th.
Let's talk about Bears for a second because I keep hearing and seeing all this Caleb Williams stuff because obviously, I mean, with his last game, his statistics were really good. And he's the only quarterback to have multiple 300 yards, multiple two touchdown games in the last like so many years, right? So then what's the problem? Like
Well,
if you're diagnosing the Bears right now, like what's the problem?
that's it was coaching, but they have no running game, so their offensive line is bad.
Right.
I mean, Swift had 30 yards rushing
On like 13 or 14 carries too,
on
right?
13 carries, 2.3. So that, and then the defense didn't play well, particularly. I mean, Sam Darnold had 330 yards. Aaron Jones had over 100 yards rushing. It wasn't even Jeff. They held Jefferson to 27 yards, but Jordan Addison had 162, Hawkinson 114.
So what's your analysis right now of Caleb Williams?
I think he's going to be good. I think it's just, well, obviously you've seen them since they got rid of Waldron and they brought
Oh,
Tom
their
Brown in.
offenses went up 150 yards a
Yeah,
game, right?
yeah. But they're going to have, it's going to be interesting because Eberflus has got to be gone. There's no way you could keep him with the underachievement they had this year. They're going to have to bring in an offensive guru to work with Caleb
Like
Williams.
Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
Right. And so have they hindered his development though with what they have, or will he continue to get better?
I think he'll continue to get better. I think you could just seen, like you said, he had 340 yards last week and he was still sacked 3 times. So he's
Right.
still, it'll be interesting. The issue will be that Keenan Allen will be a free agent. But it looks like he's starting to get more comfortable with DJ Moore.
Right.
That's the other thing
Definitely.
is he's a rookie trying to learn a new system and then trying to get used to all the new players, or a poor. So I'll give him time. I mean, everyone's saying about Bo Nix, which he is playing well, playing better than I thought. But that's a system. Bo Nix doesn't have to think in Sean Payton's system. Sean Payton tells him what to do, right?
Right. And that's I think good for Bo Nix.
Right. He's a great system guy.
Right. Like
That
that's
was
what I
perfect for
mean.
Denver.
You probably could not have drafted a better quarterback for Sean Payton.
Right. And then like for the problem with Caleb Williams is he goes to the Bears, who notoriously destroy quarterbacks. And
Yeah.
then I mean, they've never had a 4,000 yard passing quarterback, right? Wasn't that the stat?
Yep, that's the stat.
And Eberflus is a lame duck coach. They should have got rid of him. They should have just started clean and worked in and basically said, this is all for Caleb Williams. This is who we're gonna be our head coach. We're gonna get everything for Caleb Williams. Think about it. That's what the Commanders did. They were
So
like, oh,
would you have got rid of Eberflus last season?
I would have this offseason. Yeah.
Right. But well, not this coming. I'm saying last offseason.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I would have gone after Harbaugh if I was the Bears.
Right. Yeah, that's it's interesting to, think about the Bears with all that talent. And granted, I'm a Bears fan, so they've lost some tough losses. So those games could have went either way in three at least games. But if you don't have a coach that's, going to take advantage or, help with your quarterback and your offense, like what are you doing? Why are you drafting the number one overall quarterback? Why are you bringing in Keenan Allen, and DJ Moore?
Right.
So that's the problem I have. You got to get rid of him. So we'll see what happens with that. What about let's talk a little bit about your Raiders.
Eh.
I mean, what's the next step for the Raiders?
Well, they're gonna have to blow it up. I'm sorry, but Antonio Pierce is gone. He's not going to be the head coach. They have no
Wait. Before you go past that, what do you think about that? Like, are you okay with that? Do you not like that? What do you think of Antonio Pierce?
yeah, I'm okay with it because the whole thing with Antonio Pierce is he's a motivator. He's not an X's and O guy. So his number one responsibility was to bring in good X's and O's guys. What did he do? He brought in Luke Getsy. You're
Yeah,
done.
right.
You can't, you're not a guy, because last
Does he make that decision though, or how involved is he in the Luke
I'm
Getzey?
pretty sure he was involved with the Getsy decision. And I think, yeah, that was the whole thing is because he wanted Getsy because he thought it was a running off. Remember, it was, oh, the Bears beat us with Tyson
Right,
Banjan.
right.
Luke Getsy must be a great offense coordinator. No, he sucked. And that was the issue is they, and then like the whole Adams thing. I don't blame Pierce on that, but he also probably rubbed Adams the wrong way because Adams is an ego guy too.
Yeah,
He wanted to be stroked, and Pierce wanted to stroke his ego.
yeah.
Like the whole Adams comes on and says, "I don't play in preseason games," and then Pierce goes, "Anyone on this team, if they're healthy, they play."
Does Pierce have a position somewhere else? Like, where does he go from here?
I don't know.
Like maybe a defensive coordinator?
I don't think so. I mean, the Raiders are regressed in every place. He's not a great organizer.
Do you think he was pushed into the job too fast? Like, why? I mean, because what's the Texans? Why can't I remember his name?
Nico Ryans.
Nico Ryan. Don't you see those guys similar?
No, Nico Ryans was a defensive coordinator.
Right. So why couldn't Antonio Pierce go back to that same
Well, he
position
can,
and then rebuild?
right? But he was a linebackers coach. He wasn't
Right.
even a D coordinator.
But he was a pretty good linebacker in the NFL.
Yeah. He can't go back to college because he's on suspension or whatever. So he's out for at least if he tries to go back, he's out for a year.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he probably would be good as a position coach. I don't think he's a D coordinator though. I think
Yeah.
he's a motivator guy.
So maybe he has to restart, just start back at a position coach for
Yeah,
maybe another 5, 10 years.
right.
Yeah, kind of just rebuild his career.
Yeah. Because I mean, they talk about the Raiders, like the thing coming out is it's so unorganized there.
Right. Okay, so last question. Does Daniel Jones, now that he's been released, does he have a position in this league? Does anybody pick him up? Is he a second, third quarterback? Like, where can he go?
Well, I think he's going to go this year to a contender and just sit behind a good quarterback. I've heard the Bills Because the Bills would work because let's say he's not, don't get me wrong, he's not anywhere near Josh Allen, but he has the same skill set as Josh
Right.
Allen.
Well, because he can run the ball. Maybe
Right.
I can't throw the ball similar, but he's big. He's a big guy. Runs the ball. I get that.
So I would think that would be a good place for him. The funny thing people were saying was he should sign with the Cowboys and then play on Thanksgiving
Right.
against the Giants. That'd be hilarious.
Uh, what about the Raiders?
I've heard that they would like him, but I
Yeah.
don't think there's no reason for him to go there.
Well, not to a lose. Well, but either way, you're not playing. So here's my thing, and so I'll just talk about because I think he's better than both of the Raiders quarterbacks,
Oh, he is.
and I don't think it's a terrible thing for him to go there, maybe play a game or two, not a lot, but then potentially be their starting quarterback, and then instead of draft quarterback, they go for position player.
Right. Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think they would
I
like
don't
it.
think he's horrible. I think the Giants are horrible.
Yeah. Well, did you see Malik Neighbors?
Uh-uh.
Oh, he came out and basically is like, after they had just lost this last week, and he goes, "See, it wasn't Daniel Jones.
Right.
It wasn't his fault."
I don't. I know Dayball, took him to the playoffs, but I don't necessarily think that was all him. I kind of agree with that. I kind of agree that I don't think it was Daniel Jones' fault. I think their coaching staff's not great. Then they didn't put him in a position to win, and then they got rid of their best player.
Yeah. Okay, and their GM is on video saying he's not going to go to Philly.
Right. So that's pretty tough. I'm just curious what Daniel Jones his future looks like because I'm not a huge Daniel Jones fan, but I like his ability to scramble out of the pocket. He does have an issue overthrowing a little bit. And but maybe that's like not time in the pocket. Like a lot of quarterbacks have run into that in their career.
Yeah, being a Raider fan, I wouldn't mind, but I'm more like I, I'm not the Bears. I haven't had three top
Right. Top 10
10
picks
draft
in the
pick
last.
quarterbacks since, I mean, I haven't had one in like 20 years
Yeah.
since.
But the last time you had your chance, they screwed it
Oh,
up.
yeah, I know. We screwed a big time. But right now, if I can, because now amended my thing. Now it's only Shador or Cam Ward.
Right. So if you had your choice, what are you taking? Which one?
I don't know. It's hard. I personally like Cam Ward, but it seems like Shador is like a Brady guy. I wouldn't mind. Like, did you see the play where Shador took that cheap shot hit
Right.
and
Right.
then got right back up? So,
Yeah, I mean, so the issue I have with a guy like Shadur versus a guy like, and I'm not just necessarily Cam Ward, but Cam Ward's probably closest to it. Shadur reminds me of a Caleb Williams in the fact that it'll take him some time to understand that the NFL is a different level and you're
right,
not the best athlete. That's what Caleb's problem was the whole year. Like it took him 6 games to figure out, look, dude, you're not the best athlete in
right,
the NFL. And I think Shadur, ego wise, will have the same issue. Where I don't think Cam Ward will have that issue.
right. Well, yeah, Cam Ward is like he came from Washington State and he's to
Right.
Miami and
Well, didn't he go to JC before Washington State?
maybe yeah. And then Shador's been with his dad.
Right. That's what I mean. I think he's a little bit pampered
Right,
into the position where when you come to the NFL, I think you need to understand that like you're coming out of the top or the bottom, whatever you want to call it, 97 or 3%. You're just not great.
yeah, but I mean, the good thing would be is if Shador comes there, you have Tom Brady to be like, hey, listen, listen. He's like, listen to me.
I know it says last question, but I don't do one more question about uh, Dion. Does Dion leave? Where does he go?
I don't know. I mean, everyone's saying, oh, he's going to be the Cowboys. Nobody that has an ego or wants to be the man of as a head coach is going to go to the Cowboys.
Right.
That position is always going to be yes man. Because why would you want to work for Jerry Jones?
What about the Jets?
Yeah, that'd be perfect. I mean,
Then
I
you
don't
draft
know.
Shadir, right?
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I think Dion's better as a college coach
Yeah.
because what is Dion's biggest thing is recruiting. He's a great recruiter, great salesman.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to see him at least take his chance at the NFL, though.
Yeah, but if I'm Dion, would I really want to go to the Jets?
I mean, I don't think he wants to. I think it's a progression of what he's going to be pushed into.
Well, didn't he just get like the number one quarterback recruit?
Yeah. I mean, they got Colorado's recruiting right now is ridiculous.
Right.
So yeah, so maybe he stays, but I would love to see that transition though, just to see what it's like.
Is Shiloh, when does he graduate?
I mean, he's at least a minimum of junior, right?
He's no, wait, it must is it really Shiloh? He's 24, so he must be in his eligibility must be up.
Oh, maybe he's a senior.
He'll use well, he used the last one. Oh yeah, so this is his last year. Yeah, because he's 24, so
Right.
because of the COVID thing. So I could see because all of the so Travis Hunter will be gone and both Sanders will be gone.
So yeah, why not? Wouldn't you leave? I mean, there is good recruits coming in, but at the same time, like, I mean, you know, Dion, dude, he's about the fame, and
Right.
what's more famous than going from Jackson State to Colorado to the Jets or something like that?
Well, especially if they go in and win the Big 12,
Right,
make it to the college football playoffs, then he could say, look how fast I turned
right.
Colorado.
So that's probably the big thing, right? And that this last loss, probably that's brutal.
Yeah.
Because if you don't lose that game, like that, you're on that track.
Well, and Kansas physically dominated them.
Well, I'm telling you right now, I think Neal will be a really good NFL running back. The way he catches the ball, he runs the ball, he's a hard-nosed guy. You know, you're not stopping him on a 1 yard run. So that's a tough loss. I get it, but I think Kansas is underrated personally. They just don't have the rest of their team, right? They have a great running back, a decent defense, but that's it. All right, so a lot of sidetracks, but here we go. Let's get into NFL picks. So we're in week 13 now. So just what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks left. So first games are Thanksgiving, into the Turkey Day. Chicago at Detroit. What do you got?
Well, I'm not taking the Bears 2 weeks in a row. I'm taking the Lions here. They are probably the best team in the NFL right now, and it's at home. The Bears have now had some really heartbreaking losses, and I just don't see him winning here against the Lions. The Lions look very mentally tough right now, so I got the Lions winning.
Yeah, I figured you did. So I took the Bears. Not just to try to make up some games, but I think this is the one Detroit letdown game, just to be honest with you. Uh, Maybe you can lose this many heartbreaks as the Bears and maybe it just keeps happening to you. But I think they're on a good streak. Their defense isn't great. Their offense is doing good. So I'm gonna go with the Bears to try to game a game back. But I legitimately believe that they have a chance of winning this game, even though Detroit's a 10-point favorite.
I don't think they cover. I would take the Bears to at least make it.
Right. They'll kick an onside kick and lose in overtime.
Yeah,
That's typical Bears fashion.
or miss an extra point or
Right.
something.
No, that would be that'd be so good. Like if they like tied the game up and then missed the extra point with no time on the clock, that would be 100% Bears.
You imagine losing one by getting a field goal blocked at the end to lose, and then
Right.
losing after getting an onside kick, and then losing by missing an extra point.
And then losing by a Hail Mary. Don't forget
Yeah,
that. Yeah. So that's totally the Bears. So even if you're don't take the Bears to win, like you got 10 points to deal with there.
yeah.
Giants at Dallas. This is like it, I don't know if I thought it would be a good game for Thanksgiving, but right now it seems like the worst game that you could ever watch on your Thanksgiving day.
And hopefully, I think it's during, at least during my Thanksgiving
Well,
dinner.
it's 1:30, so we're all eating because that's 4:30. Oh, is it? Wait, no, 1:30 our time. Never mind.
Oh man. Okay.
But we'll be eating an hour in, whatever.
Yeah. This
So
game,
what?
yeah.
So
I
I
might be
got
having
Dallas here.
Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade during this
Right.
one.
The reason I'm taking Dallas is because New York obviously is dysfunctional and has nothing going for them. And Dallas, at minimum, comes off the win from the Commanders, where they feel like, oh, we're a decent team. Where the Giants, I don't know that the Giants players even want to play anymore.
Well, yeah, the Giants players are pissed at the coaching staff and management because they know they're tanking. Like they knew that well, no matter what you thought of Daniel Jones, he was their best quarterback on that roster.
So here's a question I have for you. We'll get back to this just for a second. We'll go back to the picks, but why would you then put DeVito in over Locke?
Because they want to lose. The coaching staff and the upper
Okay.
management want to lose. That's another reason people are pissed. It's like, really?
Well, Locke is, in my opinion, better than DeVito. Like if I'm gonna,
I don't think that's even an opinion. That's like a fact.
because I mean it's kind of crazy though. Why would you do that? Why would you go from past your second string to your third string?
To keep the number one pick.
Yeah. So I got Dallas here. Just that's my pick.
Yeah, I got Dallas too in the worst game of the year.
The worst. It is. It seems like on Thanksgiving, but you see a lot of Dallas on Thanksgiving. Like we've seen it a
Every
lot
year. Yeah, every
every
year you get the Lions in Dallas. I get it.
Lions and Dallas, right?
But I can see Dallas blowing them out.
Well, I mean, I got Dallas by 10,
Yeah.
so they cover, in my opinion. Um,
It's a 3.5, so yeah, they're definitely going to cover.
this is actually a more interesting game than I thought it would be until when I broke it down. Was Miami Green Bay? What do you got there?
Well, this is a difficult. I need to know. I gotta research what is the weather going to be like.
Right, it's in Green Bay.
All right, so 27 degrees, wind at 11 miles per hour. Okay. I'm taking the Dolphins. I don't trust the Packers.
Dude.
And the fact is last week was an anomaly because they played against, was it Brandon Allen or something Allen? I don't know what his name was.
Well, and the 49ers who just don't even care anymore.
Yeah. So I'm taking the Dolphins. They're on a hot streak. They're gonna get I think they get Hill and Waddle involved. I just think Jordan Love is just a turnover machine. So I got the Dolphins here.
I actually thought I have a swing game here, but apparently I was wrong because I have the Dolphins as well. And you know what the big reason I have the Dolphins is their defense is underrated. They're a top 10. And I don't think that's good for Jordan Love. He is, you're right. He's a turnover machine. And I don't think he'll be what the Packers need for the next, 5 to 10 years. And I think now that they're healthy, the Dolphins are not an easy win. If I'm Green Bay, the only way you win this game is Josh Jacobs 30 carries. That's how you win. And I don't
Kill my
think they'll do it.
fantasy team.
Right.
So
I just don't think they'll do it. So if Josh Jacobs rushes for 30, Green Bay wins 30 attempts. If he doesn't, they lose. But I'm taking Miami. So we got 2 for 1 there. Because of course I'm taking Chicago.
yeah.
Vegas at the Kansas City. Like, this is brutal. Is this the first ever Black Friday game?
No, I think there was one last year, wasn't there? I thought it was like Pittsburgh and
Yeah, I mean, maybe. It's nice to have NFL on Black Friday. So I'm saying I love college, but I still want to see some NFL. So what do you think? Do you guys got a chance here against the Chiefs?
oh yeah, last year's Black Friday game was horrible. It was the Dolphins against the Jets, and it was like a 34-13 game. Now I
Awesome.
remember.
Right.
Um, always have a chance,
You're
but
saying there's a chance.
O'Connell is back. O'Connell's going to be the quarterback. I just don't think the defense is and it's like, dude, get Brock Bowers in Baltimore. I get it was Minshew,
But
but
dude, the Kansas City barely beat the Panthers.
yeah, well, the Raiders got routed by the Panthers, so
Yeah,
um,
no, I agree. Yeah, okay.
I don't. Yeah, we'll see. I'd be surprised. It'd be interesting if the Raiders could beat the Chiefs 2 years in a row in Kansas City. I don't think that happens.
Is that to your benefit though to switch out O'Connell at this point for Minshew? Like, how does that help the Raiders?
Well, Minshew sucked this year. Let's just be plain about that. He was not good. He's a turnover machine.
Okay, yeah, okay,
And that was the whole thing. Well, at the beginning of the year, when I was talking about the Raiders, my thing was if they don't turn the ball
right.
over, play then they could win some games. But what happened instead? Turnovers every game. They have like the worst turnover ratio in the NFL.
But isn't there something about like offensive cohesion? Because and last week, I mean, there were some good things from Jacoby Myers, and Minshew didn't look horrible.
Yeah, but I mean, kind of. Then Ritter had to come in and score a touchdown. He's not very any good either. He fumbled it. Um, I,
It's just done for the year, so you're just like, let's put Aiden O'Connell back
well,
in and
I
see what we
mean,
got.
Connell has repertoire with all the players too, pretty much.
Yeah.
He was the starter last year when they beat Kansas City when they scored. ungodly amounts against the Chargers.
So will they cover? Will Kansas City cover that, 13-point spread?
No, but it'll probably be 11. It won't be a blowout, but it won't be close.
Well, let's talk about Kansas City for a second because they don't look good, but they keep winning, obviously. Um, I don't know. I started watching that game because obviously there was nothing on.
Yeah.
They looked really bad against Carolina.
They haven't looked good all year, but they keep winning, and that's all that matters.
But does that matter when it comes in the playoffs playing Buffalo and Baltimore and, Houston and these teams?
Well, I mean, they've only lost to Buffalo, right?
Right.
So they've beaten the Ravens, they beat the Bengals, right? They've
Are they
beaten,
still the favorite in the AFC?
well, yeah, because they still got home field advantage.
Yeah. And home field in the winter in Kansas City is brutal.
Right.
What's Pacheco's return look like? I think he's
Today, this
practicing,
week,
right? So
this
this
week,
week,
he'll be
this
back
week, right?
this week.
So he's just gonna murder the Raiders,
Yeah.
right? So they may cover. I don't know. Do I even have them covering? Let me look. I mean, I have Kansas City, obviously, but I don't know if I have them covering. Oh, I do have them covering. So I have Kansas City by 14 on a 12 and a half spread.
Yeah.
So yeah, um, we'll take Kansas City there. Here's an interesting game. Game one, Sunday games. The Chargers at Atlanta. What do you got there?
Oh, well, this won't be a surprise to anyone. I got the Chargers here. There's no way I'm taking the Falcons.
Holly took the Falcons, just so you know.
Even though the Chargers are favored.
Chargers are favored.
Yeah, I can't trust the Falcons at all. I mean, there's no way. I got the Chargers here. Even though Quentin Johnson can't catch a pass. Oh my
Dude, did you
gosh.
see his statistics about targets and drops?
Was like 4 for 4. This last week it was four for
Five
four.
for three. It was five targets, three drops.
Yeah. And all three of them, the drops were like wide open, like first downs.
Yeah, dude, come on. Like five targets and three of them are drops. That's not three like thrown over your head, no, at your feet. That means you dropped three of them. I think Atlanta, they're at the point where if they lose this game, Cousins is done and Penix is in. The reason I'm taking the Chargers as well, though, is because Harbaugh is pissed that they lost that game
Losing
to
to
his
his
brother.
brother.
Right. And dude, you don't want to be at practice at the Chargers practice this week. And so they're going to come out and they're going to beat up Atlanta. So we're on the same wavelength there, Chargers. Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. This is such a hard one for me because I just don't understand how Pittsburgh keeps winning, even though they lost to Cleveland last week. They're still in this race as a team that I don't think that's good. They have a good defense, but I'm not a Russell Wilson fan. Even if you put in Justin Fields, you're still going to lose. Cincinnati has too much offense. So I'm taking Cincinnati at home right here.
Yeah, I'm taking Cincinnati too. They've had a lot of bad luck games where
Yeah.
they lost in last second. So, this we talked about this earlier. The Steelers were going to start to come down to earth, and this is when it starts happening. I am more higher than on the Steelers than you are, but I just think the Bengals are not the team that the record shows. So I got the Bengals.
Yes, that's 100% true. Is they're way better than their record. And I'm not down on the Steelers. I'm down on their quarterbacks.
Right.
It's the same. Like it hasn't changed since, Wes's favorite Cody Pickett.
Oh, Russell Wilson's way better than Pickett. Come on, Steve.
But I'm not saying that it's a difference in how good they are. I'm saying that's where your downfall is.
Well, I think their downfall is their receivers.
Yeah, I mean, Pickens, he's up and down, but he's good. And if you get the ball to the other guys, you're fine. I don't know. I just don't. If I'm a coach personally or a GM, my resolve is not to bring in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. That's who you brought in to like revitalize your franchise.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, their running game did not show up last week.
Yeah.
So and that could have been the snow and maybe the footing. You don't know. So
So we'll see how they finish out the season. They're right there. They'll probably make the playoffs. I do think they lose this game. Arizona at Minnesota. These two teams, I just don't even know what to think about them. So, what do you think?
well, I'm taking the Cardinals here. I'm taking the Cards because, they lost last week to Seattle, but it was nasty up there. And I think that ruined the Arizona. Arizona's not a good bad weather team.
Right.
This game's in a dome. Like I said, I don't trust the Viking. The Vikings will start playing down now. They almost lost to the Bears. And I think the Cardinals are looking at, well, I don't think the 49ers are showing up, so this is our chance. So I got the Cardinals winning.
This was probably one of the toughest games for me. Um, just to start it off, I'm taking Minnesota, so we do have a swing game here. The only reason I'm taking Minnesota here is because in Minnesota, because I don't know who could win this game. So you've said this a million times. If you don't know who's going to win, you take the home team. Because I really think they're both on this like weird, like you don't know who's going to show up and how they're going to play. And so just I'm going to go with the home team here, Minnesota. So now I've got two swing games. Indianapolis at New England. Jeez, what a horrible game. Uh, I'll start this one, and I probably think I got a swing game here because I'm taking New England at home. Drake May throws for 300 yards, maybe for the first time, maybe not, but uh, Indianapolis defense just doesn't impress me. It'll probably be a back and forth, back and forth. New England, last second field goal wins the game.
Yeah, you got a swing game here because I'm taking Anthony Richardson in this game. I think they'll play a little better. It's still the Patriots. Patriots did not look good last week. So they need to lose more than the Colts do. The Colts are in it for
Yeah,
playoffs.
yeah, you might be right that it's more about the draft pick.
Yeah, so yeah, you get your swing game here because I'm going to take the Colts.
So I thought exactly about what you talked about. You know why I did take New England though? Because I also think that this is like Drake May's time to show what he's got. If you don't show it here, then you run the risk of them thinking, well, is he really our guy?
Yeah, I don't know about that though because he's played really well. They just don't
Right.
have a very good team around him.
Well, yeah. So now if they lose, they get a good pick. You're right there. But I think Drake May has to show something, though. I mean, he's had decent games, but he really has to like have a good game here. And this is your chance because the Colts have not been great on pass defense.
Right.
So I'm going with the Patriots at home. It's hard to root against them at home, so I might get some games back there. Seattle at the Jets. What do you got there?
Well, I'm sticking with my thing. I'm not taking the Jets.
At home?
Well, dude, they're such a dumpster fire. Now they're talking about, oh, we may want to release Aaron Rodgers and we're not going to bring him back next year. It's just so bad. Uh, they fired the GM, so I it's just such a dumpster fire for the Jets. Seahawks are playing well. They're coming off that big win against the Cardinals. They're looking for the playoffs. So I'm taking the Seahawks here.
Yeah, I don't see how you can't take the Seahawks here. I'm in agreement. I think Jets are so discombobulated that even though they probably have more talent, top to bottom, offense and defense, they still aren't going to win. Um, Seattle's on their run for the playoffs, so I'm going with them too. Tennessee at Washington, which a couple weeks ago would have been just like a lay down, but I'm taking Tennessee here, and here's why. Tennessee's running defense is really good. And if Washington can't run the ball, they're in trouble. And so I think they're going to get popped in the mouth by Tennessee's running defense. And Washington's going to have to figure out what they need to do. So I'm going to take Tennessee here, even on the road.
Yeah, I got another swing game here. I'm taking the Commanders, and the fact is Tennessee still has to play offense, and so that's not going to go well for them.
Right.
And the Commanders are coming off that game where they came back and almost they played like crap, and then they came back and almost won. And to get like that, missing the extra point, then this comes to the point where we're like, well, we would have won if this would have happened. So I think they are looking like we could have beat them. There's no game we're not in type of a situation. So for this one, I think this is where the game comes down to is they've had their slide. They've lost a few games in a row. This is where
So
they're going to
it's
buckle
time
down.
for them to get off the slide, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that does make sense. But it's like this is do or die for Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee's dead, so I
Yeah.
guess it doesn't matter. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I haven't believed in the Commanders all year. So if they win this game, yeah, I'll let them be back in the playoffs. But if they come out and lose this game, they're in trouble
Yeah.
because then they go to 7-6.
They have a little Jaguars thing going on like last
Right,
year.
right, exactly. Yeah, you go what 5-2, 5 and or 6-2. What were they? They were
Gosh, I think it was something even crazier than that, right? Because they were,
one, two, three, four, five. So they were 4-1, 4-2. Oh, then they won three in a row. So they were 7-2, and then they lost three in a row. So yeah, they do have a Jacksonville thing happening, which we know how that turned out.
yeah.
Houston at Jacksonville. They got there. It's an easy one.
You would think, but the Texans have been like ridiculously stupid this year. But I can't take Wes's favorite player, Mac Jones, here. I'm taking the Texans.
Yeah, just I mean, Texans are on a slide. They're not looking great, but it's hard to go in and lose to Jacksonville. I don't see how you lose Jacksonville here. So we're both going Houston. But Houston's like, I mean, CJ Stroud is not looking good.
No.
That's interesting that you have this really great first year quarterback and then second year just it's just
Well,
not happening.
they have the turn. It's the sophomore slump
So,
where
yeah,
he's going through it because teams have had time to prepare. You brought it up a few weeks ago. He hasn't had Nico Collins. He doesn't have Stephon Diggs anymore.
right.
So now Collins is back. So we'll see what happens now.
At least they're playing Jacksonville,
Yeah.
right?
But if think about
Ram,
this, if they
oh, good.
lose and the Colts win,
Right, they're right back in it.
yeah,
That's why I think the Colts will lose to New England because they don't want to win.
I think the Colts do want to win. That's why they benched Richardson, which was the first stupid mistake. But
Well, that's what I'm saying. You make these stupid mistakes. I don't think you want to. You should have left Richardson in the first place.
yep.
That's the stupidest mistake you could have made. Because now, when you need him the most, he's not lacking confidence, but he's still varying because you already pulled him out once. So I'm not happy about what the Colts have done.
No.
Uh Chargers or no, sorry, Rams at New Orleans.
I'm guessing we're gonna have a swing game here because I'm taking the Saints.
Oh, we might. Yeah. Why are
Uh,
you taking the Saints? Let me
I
hear
don't,
this.
I'm like, I am not that big on the Rams. And the Saints coming off of their bye, they're at home. I just don't think the Rams are that great. They have Nakua, they have Cup. That's about it.
Well, they're healthy again. I mean, I see what you're saying because it's hard to take the Saints or not take the Saints at home because they play well there. But what do the Saints have?
They got Kamara. I mean, since Cars came back, they've looked different again. That's what everyone keeps like, oh, the Saints, they suck. Well, Cars was hurt for a bunch of the season.
Right.
I mean, they beat the Falcons. So I just think the Saints,
I mean, they're on two game win streak. Falcons and Browns.
yeah.
I mean, I have a hard time with this because even though the Rams lost to Philadelphia when Saquon had the best game we've seen in years, the Rams still had a chance. They still just threw away the game.
It doesn't say that Kamara doesn't have a big game.
Yeah.
And the thing is this. what's still going on is Stafford was sacked 5 times by the Eagles. Saints still have a pretty good defense. He scored only 20 points, and Nakua had 117 yards, and Cup had 60. And the Cup touchdown was when the game was already over.
Right. Yeah, but it won me $100, so I'm good with that. I'm still taking the Rams, though, just to be honest, because I don't trust the Saints in the sense that I don't think you want to play them because you could lose, but they're just not consistent. So here we go. What do we got? Like four swing games?
We got a lot more than that, I think. We got the Colts, Pats. We got the Cards, Vikings. We got the Bears, Lions.
Well, the Bears Lions is kind of just like throwing it up there, but
Yeah. Well, maybe you're right. Maybe four.
yeah. So I think we got four.
No, five. Titans, Commanders.
This is my chance. This is my week.
This is why we needed Wes, because we got to have a
Yeah.
tiebreaker.
Yeah, I'm just trying to catch up with you though, so I need these.
Or you fall farther and farther away.
Oh, it'd be real bad if I lose all of them. Tampa, Carolina. Even though Carolina played well against the Chiefs, I just don't think Chiefs are that good. I think Tampa, it's just not the way they beat the Giants because the Giants are trash, but the way they looked more cohesive with Mike Evans coming back, it just gave Baker this new renewed sense of confidence. And I just can't see the Carolina beating Tampa here because uh, I think Baker's going to throw for 350.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think with Evans coming back and Bucky Irving had a really good game. So yeah, I'm taking the Bucks here. But I will say, what a novel idea. Bryce Young doesn't look half bad.
No, he's not. I mean, he looked pretty good last week against a decent Kansas City defense,
Yeah.
which is, kept them in the games long enough to win most of their games this year. And so I think that was a little exposing Kansas City a little bit, especially against Carolina. So here's I think personally, the toughest pick of the week. So Philly at Baltimore. What do you got there?
This is a tough one because there are two teams that I usually always pick, but I'm taking Baltimore here because you've got the two almost okay, the three MVP candidates because you got
Right,
Lamar
right.
still
And still in Henry and
and
Barkley.
Barkley. I just taken the Ravens because this is their time where they start to turn it on. It's at home, uh, and this is going to be interesting because it's Eagles against the Ravens, and they're the same teams.
Right. Run the ball, like
Play
have a good
physical.
quarterback that can run around.
Yeah, so I am taking the Ravens here.
I mean, I agree. So I got the Ravens too. You never like to play Philly right here,
All right.
especially the way Barkley, has been playing the whole season. But here's the thing about Baltimore. I think this is the year Baltimore gets over the hump. So I've never been a huge Baltimore fan, but looking at their offense with Lamar, with Henry, with Flowers, bringing in other guys, Deontay Johnson, and they already have Bateman, and Mark Andrews is coming around again. So
Yeah.
I think you're gonna have a tough time beating Baltimore, especially at home. So I'm taking Baltimore in this game, but I'm gonna make an early prediction right now that Baltimore wins the Super Bowl.
Oh, wow. Not the Browns?
Yeah. Well, I didn't have them winning, but they let me down. But looking at what we're at right now in the season, I'm taking Baltimore. I don't think anybody else looks super strong except the Bills, and I think Baltimore beats them in the playoffs. So Baltimore definitely, I'm taking them in this game, but that's my early playoff prediction. San Francisco at Buffalo. Geez, the 49ers have just fallen off the rails. And I think Buffalo's right there in the AFC Championship. So easily Buffalo wins this game.
Yeah, Purdy's not playing that I've seen, so yeah, I'm taking Buffalo here. It's not going to be pretty.
What are Josh Allen's chance to win the MVP?
Oh, well, if they keep winning and he keeps putting up numbers, he could. They're
He's
they
got
have
good
a chance
numbers.
they have a chance of clinching the division this week.
Right.
That's crazy.
He's a little low on yardage and QBR, but he makes up for that with running and touchdowns,
Right.
which I think is a big advantage there. They've been hurt in the receiver area a lot. So
Yeah.
for them to keep winning, I think it's a big thing for Allen. So that's I don't know. I have a hard time picking them to win it all, but I think they're way ahead of where I thought they would
Yeah, considering losing Diggs, you lost a bunch of
be. Right,
players.
Tre'Davious White and what defense and offense and that was rough. But all right, Monday night, Cleveland at Denver. What do you got there?
Well, I hate to say, but I got Denver.
Right.
Ugh,
At home.
yeah. Can we please have a bad weather game? What's going on? Oh, no, it's not telling me any weather yet. I want a good another snow game. That would be great.
Yeah. I just even in the snow, I don't think Cleveland can beat them. Unfortunately, I think what you said earlier, Sean Payton drafted the right quarterback and Bo Nix is fitting right into the system. And when you start winning, it helps you. You build a lot of confidence. I don't think there's any way Cleveland beats them, and I think they're going to be a force, in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, no snow.
No snow.
0% precipitation. Ooh, I want more snow games.
All right, so there we got our predictions. We got a few swing games here. So this is, I think, kind of all or nothing at this point. I looked at it and you have 11 games on me.
Dang.
Yeah, that's a lot for our normal, right?
Right. Usually we're
Yeah, we're pretty close. And so you got a big lead. I got, I think, four swing games here,
five.
maybe five swing games. So if this doesn't go my way, um, you're gonna take the crown again for the season. So let's just wrap up here, do some college football. So we were talking about this even before the podcast. College football right now, it's kind of nuts when you think about the top 12 and then who's going to actually get elected or chosen for these teams. So looking at the current rankings, what are some of the the at large bids that you think are going to make it? Like, can Alabama with three losses go to the college football playoff?
Well, so right now I'm trying to see. So, is Clemson the first team out right now?
Yeah, but they have a big game this week,
Right. Against South Carolina,
right?
who has three losses too. Who knows what? So if we're looking at this, you got Oregon and Ohio State and Penn State and Indiana's barely still in.
Well, let's start with Indiana because there's been a lot of controversy in the media right now, in the sports media about Indiana. Obviously, they haven't played the toughest schedule in the world. Actually, they've played like what the 100th schedule
Yeah.
before they played Ohio State. They were like 100th, but they played Ohio State, then they lose, and now you don't get to go to the Big Ten championship most likely. But you could finish, with one loss and not go to the playoff.
Right.
How do you feel about that?
Well, it comes down to they kind of got screwed by the Big Ten, right? I mean, it wasn't their fault that they didn't have to play anybody else that was good in the Big Ten, right?
Right,
They're non-conference Charlotte, Western Illinois, and Ford International.
right. Which that's why they had such a low rated schedule.
Yeah.
But they're
Ford,
they're gonna finish with one loss, most likely.
I mean, if you look at it, okay, Ford International has been good some, it's hard because they also do this years in advance, right? I mean, it's not like it was last year they said, okay, these are the teams we're going to play for non-conference.
Yeah, yeah. No, they put it way ahead of time.
Right. And then who was Ohio State's non-conference?
But here's the question. Here's the ultimate question about Indiana, right? They're number 10 right now, rankings, give or take, depending on what poll you're looking at. They beat every team they played by like 25 points a game, minimum. Lost one game to Ohio State. They'll beat Purdue and they'll go in at 11-1 should they be in the college football playoff.
Yes, because here's my thing. Like I was saying, the non-conference schedule. Ohio State's non-conference was Akron, Western Michigan, and Marshall.
Right. But then they played Penn State,
But whose fault?
Oregon,
That's
and
not
I
Ohio State.
yeah,
That's the Big Ten scheduling that,
right.
right? Indiana didn't get to pick those games. The Big Ten is who scheduled the games for Indiana.
Sure.
So it just so happened this year Indiana didn't play Penn State or Oregon or, you know, anyone else good in the Big Ten.
So Indiana, you give a at large bid.
I would say so, yes.
Penn State,
Yeah, I mean they only have one loss too.
right. They're gonna be in the exact same situation.
Yeah.
And then Ohio State and Oregon. So you're gonna say four of the 12 teams are Big Ten teams?
Yeah.
Where does that
You're
leave the
gonna
SEC?
well, you're gonna get where you're gonna have the SEC and the Big Ten are gonna be your teams. So right now you'll have at least three SEC teams, right?
And well, you know what's crazy about that is only one of those SEC teams we're talking about has one loss, which is
Right.
Texas.
Yeah.
You've got three Big Ten teams with one loss and one with zero losses.
Right. Yeah, that's why I say the four Big Ten teams should be in.
Yeah.
Now, here's where we talked about the other week. Um, Not the SEC, because I still think Georgia, Tennessee, and Texas get in if they win out.
Well,
Or
you got Tennessee, who's still ranked eighth.
right. So like I can see, like you were talking about, can Alabama make it at three losses?
Right.
Not if it's Georgia. Georgia could, because if they lose to Texas in the SEC championship,
Then they could still make it. Right.
yeah.
I see what you're saying.
The one that is concerning to me, and we talked about this about conference championships, is Miami, SMU.
Oof. Then, because then if so, let's say Miami loses to SMU.
Right.
Do they
Do
make it?
you, do you leave Miami out?
I think you have to.
But what if Clemson? So the next team, we said the next team up is
Oh,
Clemson.
right. And well, I think it comes if Clemson wins this week, I think then you have to consider them,
But they wouldn't have been in their conference championship game. And then you're going to kick the loser out of the conference championship game for a two-loss
right?
Clemson.
For a two-loss Clemson. That's tough. But then you have a two-loss loser, though, at the doesn't matter because still that's a two-loss.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have had to. They would play one more game than Clemson.
Right. The reason I like Clemson if they win the South Carolina game, because now you're beating a top 15 SEC team,
Right.
which I hate to say this, but I don't care about. I still think the SEC is the best conference, and that matters. Like when you play a better competition that puts you in a better place to win. It's like that's the point where like Boise State, for example, they're they're never going to look at them as top tier teams because they're not playing top tier competition.
Right. The only problem I have with Clemson is they got destroyed by Georgia, and then they lost to Louisville by 12.
Yeah. And but I will always say this is just my personal opinion, those first couple games of the year, especially when you're playing, these top 10 teams, that's not necessarily a gives you a good view of the team you are. If
Right.
they lost to Georgia last week by 34-3, then maybe it's more. But now you've won, you know, what is that? Uh 8 of your last 9.
But here's my thing. So let's say SMU loses to Miami. You're going to say,
That complicates things more.
because let's say, so SMU loses to Miami. So then you take, okay, Clemson's losses are to Georgia and Louisville. SMU's losses would be to Miami and BYU.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm still taking Clemson.
But SMU beat Louisville.
Right.
But and then you were going to the whole thing you were saying, you're going to punish SMU for making it the conference championship over Clemson.
Yeah. No, yeah, I know what you're saying on that. That's a tough thing to do. But and here's what it ultimately comes down to, which really sucks, which I also think that the committee thinks about these things, is is SMU the same type of program as Clemson? Like long term or the
Yeah, well,
last
then we get into this, why are
15
we even
years.
having a playoff?
Right.
Why don't we just say, I don't care about records, right?
Yeah.
Like Alabama's better than,
Well, which is why they're even talking about a three-loss Alabama possibly going to the playoffs. That's nuts.
right?
That's crazy. How can Alabama still be in the conversation for a playoff team?
Well, it's because well, if you look at would you take, see, that's the thing is some losses are different than others. I'm taking a three-loss SEC team over a two-loss Big 12 team.
Which is exactly what I'm talking about. And it doesn't have to be in the conference. It can also be about the school.
But that's the thing is you're talking pedigree.
Right.
But the problem is you can't say, hey, SMU from the ACC and Clemson from the ACC, we're going to put Clemson in because they won national championships, right? I mean,
I think you can.
I don't think if
If they beat South Carolina, it's a whole different thing. As a fan, I'd rather watch Clemson than FCU.
I don't know. Have you seen SMU? They got an awesome offense. But here's my thing. As a fan, I don't want to be punished for a team losing their having one loss in conference and that being the
Right.
conference championship game.
And then losing.
And then so why would they play? That's
Well,
where you're going to get to. Then teams are going to be like, we're not playing in these conference championship games.
they should get rid of the conference championships, in my opinion. If you're going to go to a 16 team playoff eventually, or maybe more down the road, but let's just say it's 16 teams next year, 2 years, or whatever it is. Why even have a conference championship?
Right. Well, it's money. But that's the thing is if you're one of these people that are voting, you have to take into account, okay, SMU has the same record as Clemson, but they don't have the same record as Clemson because they have one more win than Clemson. They played one more game than Clemson.
Right.
You can't say that a 11 and 2 team isn't better than a 10 and 2 team when they're in the same conference.
Right. But even Army at this point, even though they lost, got demolished by Notre Dame, they're going to come in as a one-loss team,
Yeah, but they're not even in the top 25 now
right?
because they're
It's
not in a big con it's like
That's the
Boise.
tough thing about college football, though. It's like you're always going to come down to this is, Washington State lost, but let's say they didn't lose. Let's say Washington State had just ran the table. And then you're going to be like, okay, we're going to put Washington State in the playoffs.
Yeah, but think about this. One of the how many times can we count? I know TCU got blown out in the championship game, but they won a playoff game.
Michigan.
Uh, Utah back when Urban Meyer was there, didn't they win like the Sugar Bowl or something?
Yeah.
Boise State beating Oklahoma. I think you don't want just all blue bloods. That's boring. You want the underdog once in a while.
Yeah. Well, I think they should make it more in that direction personally. But the way they have it right now, I, I actually think they want the blue bloods in there
Oh
right
yeah, because it's
now.
all about money.
Right. But
That's what it
I,
though.
I would
One
love to see like just all these different conference winners. It's more like the March Madness.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
But
let's
like when
just
you were
put some
saying
of those in there.
Alabama 3 losses, but There isn't very many teams behind Alabama that have. It's a bad year. Your two
Well,
loss teams behind Alabama are UNLV, BYU, Iowa State, Tulane, Arizona State.
and would you take any of those teams over Alabama?
No.
No. Even a three-loss Alabama, I'll take over Indiana.
Now I want to go there.
Who do you think would win that game right now?
Neutral field, I think it's a toss-up because Alabama isn't Nick Saban, Alabama. Let's remember that.
But still, now you're still questioning the Indiana Alabama game, even though Indiana is going to finish 10-1 or 11-1, right?
Right. Yeah, but I'll take this. Any SEC team up to like from Texas A&M,
To any the whole league.
yeah,
That's the issue is you want to if you want to put one of these teams in there like a who might make it. It could be a Boise State at this point. They're playing really good. They got Genty. I get that. But let's say it's a Arizona State or um, uh, any of those teams. If Arizona State goes to the playoff, who are you going to take against Alabama, Arizona State?
right. Well, but like you said, Boise State almost beat Oregon in Oregon.
Right. No, I don't disagree with that. I'm not saying that any team can't beat any team on a given day, but if you're a betting person, right, you're not taking Arizona State over Alabama, even if they win the Big 12,
No, but I want them to get that opportunity.
right? And I think that's what the biggest thing is. It's like we should change, or they should change the opportunity for those smaller teams. But then you're talking about a 16 team playoff, then a 32 team playoff, and now
Right.
they're playing the whole every week the whole year.
I just think there should be, first off, a thing that if you lose your conference championship game, it doesn't screw you.
That's why they shouldn't have that. It's
I know.
ridiculous.
But like you said, though, I'm not taking, if SMU makes it to the conference championship game, there's no way I'm putting Clemson in over them if they lose.
Right. Right. But then let's say it's in Indiana instead. So SMU loses conference championship, then you have to decide between Indiana and SMU.
But why would you have to do that?
I'm just saying, it's just hypothetical, dude.
Well,
What would you choose in that situation?
I choose SMU because they made it to the conference championship game.
Right. Now you're leaving a 10-1, 11-1 Indiana out with one loss to Ohio State.
Well, SMU had been 11 and 1 too before going into the conference championship
Right.
game.
So the conference championship game is really what's screwing it all up.
Right.
So why even have conferences? Why even just everybody just playing each other, whatever, and then just take the top 16 teams?
Well, here's the other thing that's going to be messed up. So the top four conference champions get a bye, right?
Right.
Oregon's going to play Ohio State again in the Big Ten championship.
It's just nuts.
If if Ohio State wins, they get a bye and Oregon doesn't, even though Oregon already beat them once this year.
Mhm. But then it's equal. They both lost once.
But then why should Ohio State get the bye?
Right. Then you should be looking at tiebreakers, which is even more ridiculous.
Right. But that's what you said. The conference championship screwed Oregon out of
Right.
a bye.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. I think, well, but then how do you decide the conference champion if there's no conference championship game.
Well, there you go. That's why you have to figure out a way to have every team play each other. That's the issue is when you get these super conferences, there's no way to do it unless you have a
Right. And you ruin it to for Indiana, for example, who doesn't get to play, or Penn State is actually a better example.
right.
They only have one of those games. And they lost that game. Granted, they're still going to make the playoffs, right? They're still ranked in top five, but that could have hurt them.
Well, that's the funny thing is everyone's talking about Indiana not playing anyone except Ohio State. Who did Penn State play besides Ohio
Ohio
State?
State, right?
Yeah.
No, well, I mean, Illinois was ranked when they played them, but that's it.
Right now, if they win out, like you got to say Oregon, Ohio State, Texas,
And
Penn State, Notre Dame,
wait, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame. You got five.
Miami,
Miami,
Georgia,
Georgia,
Tennessee,
Tennessee.
SMU, Indiana, Boise State, and then whoever wins the Big 12.
You think only, wait, is that only one Big 12 team though?
Yeah, there's only going to be one Big 12 team. Unless there's more law, you know what I mean? Unless there's
But
some
they
more
have
law.
three 9-2 teams.
Yeah,
That means even the ones that lose in the playoffs, you're going to have a 9-2 or 10-2 team or 11-2 team that doesn't go to the playoffs.
right. But look at what you have ahead of you. Oregon has 0 losses. Ohio State has one. Oh, let's say Oregon beats Ohio State in conference championship. You're still taking a 2 loss Ohio State team over a Big
Right.
12
Because
two
they
loss.
lost twice to the number one team in the country.
Right. If Texas goes to the SEC championship and loses, they're 10-2. You're still taking a 10-2 Texas
Right.
over. Um, Penn State will have 1 loss. Notre Dame will have 1 loss. You'll have an Miami or SMU with 2 losses. But I'm taking SMU or Miami over.
So the reality is you're taking the ACC two loss over the Big 12 two loss.
Well, because the ACC 2 loss will be in the conference championship game.
Yeah. But how do you compare the ACC to the Big 12 though?
Well, you got Miami, SMU, and Clemson all in the top 12. And your first and Arizona State is at 16.
Right.
So you have three ACC teams in the top 12. So right there, you're telling you that
Well,
the
they all played each other and nobody though.
but here's the thing is the Big 12 is so bad that Boise State gets a bye right now.
Right.
Think about that. An non-power conference gets a bye.
So who's a better conference, the ACC or the Big 12?
I would say the ACC.
You think top to bottom the ACC is better than the Big 12 right now?
Well, not counting Florida State, but if I take in the top three,
I mean, it's close. I mean,
the
looking at,
top
yeah, you're
if I'm
right.
taking the top 7 teams from the ACC over the top 7 teams in the Big 12, right? Because you got
Oh,
SMU,
it's
Clemson,
tough.
Miami, Louisville, Georgia Tech, Duke,
Right.
Syracuse.
I mean, there's a big drop off after the first three, though.
Yeah, but that's the thing is the Big 12 has kind of got like a bunch of okay teams.
Right.
They don't have any good teams, is what I'm saying. They have a bunch of okay teams.
SMU though is the same as a lot of those other teams. Like next year, they could be, 4-9, 4-8.
Yeah, but right now they're ranked ninth, and
Right.
Arizona State is 16th because SMU still only has 1 loss.
Yeah. So is Miami.
Right. But right now, SMU has zero conference losses.
Right. So that's why they're leading the conference. I mean, I get it. Yeah, I can go along with that. Yeah, it's just kind of breaking down the numbers. I'll take it. I'll take two ACC teams and then one Big 12. Because the Big 12, they're just beating each other up, dude.
Yeah.
It's like the team that could lose to the other team to like screw it up the most is happening.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think when we're looking at it for this next week, it's perfectly set up because Kansas State um, plays Iowa State.
Right.
So,
Which a few weeks ago would have been a whole different game, but now it's like managing the whole conference.
yeah. Yeah, because you got BYU against Houston. BYU should win. Um, you have Arizona State, Arizona, and then you
Never
have
easy game.
Oklahoma State, Colorado.
What about this Kansas State Iowa State game?
Yeah, I
In
don't. It's going to be crazy. So if Kansas State wins that,
right.
I don't know what the three-way tie breaker is.
Like there's some weird ass AI involved in that.
Well, then I think you got to go into head to head, right?
Head to head, I think is always the first, right? And then it's usually like conference, but they're on the same conference, and then you go to points scored.
Well, I don't know what it is for the Big 12. They have something weird like set up. But if you look at it, so Colorado, okay, so Colorado didn't play.
Yeah, they're playing Oklahoma State. They should easily win that game.
Yeah, they didn't play any of the teams that they'd be tied with. They lost to Kansas and Kansas State. So it's kind of crazy because then you're getting
That's
into
wild.
that's the problem with these big conferences.
Well, they lost to Nebraska too.
Did Colorado lose to Nebraska too?
Yeah, week two.
Oh. Oh yeah, they have three losses. But
Right,
Nebraska's not in their conference.
right.
Arizona State has beaten BYU. Who did they lose to?
So you know what's interesting?
Oh, Cincinnati. Oof.
So do the power rankings, do the conferences, do like the strength of schedule? How much does that matter to you when it comes to the playoff selection?
Well, first and foremost to me is record. And uh then I start going over like, okay, conference wise. So like if we're looking at it right now, I'm taking a one loss ACC team or a two loss SEC team over a two or three loss um, Big 12 team, right?
Right.
And
Well,
that's
which
what I
I think
mean.
is most people's like heartburn around like the playoff rankings.
I mean, if I'm looking at the playoff rankings, they're pretty much what I'd expect. You have all your teams with one, the only teams you have on, you got Georgia and Tennessee ahead of SMU, Indiana, and Boise State. But Wouldn't you say the SEC two losses better than a one loss team from those?
Right. That's the whole issue, dude. Because you could take a Tulane, right, who has a similar record, but you're never going to put Tulane in over any SEC team who has the same record.
There's going to be never any mid-major team
Right.
make it with two losses.
But doesn't that also what makes like March Madness so much fun though?
Right, but it's different though because you can't have you remember March Madness, you're playing two games in 4 days.
Right.
You're not going to be able to do that with football.
Well, they're getting paid, dude. They should do it.
Yeah,
I'm just saying it's much more fun when you don't have to make those decisions. When
right,
you can just say, let's just put SMU in there, let's just put Tulane in there, let's put, UNLV at 9-2.
right.
So that's the issue I have with that. But I get it. It's college football, and we've known this for years. The big schools have the big players, and because nobody wants to go in and watch SMU get blown out by Tennessee by 40.
Yeah, the problem is though, then we got like the other point. How many years did we have Notre Dame in national championship games get blown out
Right.
because of their name? Because
And
they're,
they're playing trash teams to get there.
you know,
I mean, although they did beat Texas A&M, Louisville,
Army,
Army, and Navy, but
USC.
yeah, again, not a big deal. I mean, technically, they haven't played a great schedule. So let's just predict these big games here. So we got, I mean, Tulane, Memphis. That's a good game. Here's about that.
You on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I think that'll be fun to watch, actually. So Ole Miss, Mississippi State. There's really not great. Oh,
Georgia
South
Tech.
Carolina, Clemson. There you go.
Yeah.
That's the game. What do you got? At Clemson.
Yeah, at Clemson. Is it really a Clemson or is it a no, it is Clemson. Okay.
Yeah, 2.5. It's a close game.
Yeah, I'm kind of mad because I said South Carolina would be an upset. Remember when we were doing that for money and they looked horrible.
Right.
I'm gonna take Clemson here. They're looking really good.
But I think at home you got to take them.
Yeah. I mean, they're both in South Carolina, so it's not that big of a home game.
Right. Well, you're true. Yeah, right. It's not like they're traveling. I think that's a good game. 9 a.m., dude, Saturday morning. I think that's the game I'm gonna be watching. But Ohio State, Michigan's always fun to watch. I know Michigan's not great, dude, but that's a
We have
good game to
to
watch.
for that one too. My gosh.
21 point. Will Ohio State cover 21 points?
They might. Because I don't think Ohio State will call off the dogs once they
Right.
start going
They're gonna want to beat them up. So if you're a betting man, are you taking 21 over or under?
under.
I think I'm taking under too. I think Ohio State wins the game, but Michigan doesn't go easily.
Yeah.
And then I mean Notre Dame, USC, Penn State, Maryland, nothing.
Tennessee Vandy.
Oh, that's interesting.
Is Vandy could be another,
They like to throw a little monkey in the wrench. But I mean, it's at Vandy. I mean, do they cover 10.5? Yeah, I'm taking Tennessee. No, it's not. I thought about it for a second. I'm taking Tennessee by 14. let's see. The Alabama Auburn's an interesting game,
Gosh, well, that will help out everyone if Alabama loses four
right?
games.
So you can just get done with them. You're like, we're just done with Alabama. But
No, I'm
dude,
telling
look,
you, the interesting game is going to be Miami-Syracuse.
well, yeah, because Syracuse, I mean, they're throwing the ball like crazy because they got what's his name?
McCord, right?
Ford from Ohio State, right? So it's not an easy game for Miami, that's
It's
for
in
sure,
Syracuse.
right? Yeah, I don't see anything else that's super big impact here.
Oh, come on, Steve.
Oh,
Texas
Texas,
A&M.
yeah, last game, Texas A&M. Oh, and Ohio State, Kansas State. Never mind, we got two games. So the Texas A&M is an interesting game. Texas in the five and a half favorite at College Station.
You don't like to play in College Station.
No, and I'm not. I haven't been super impressed with Texas lately. Oh man, I think I'm still taking Texas though,
Yeah,
and I think they'll cover. I think they're gonna win by a touchdown. That's a tough one. Not as tough as the Kansas State Iowa State game though.
yeah, that's going to be a tough one.
It doesn't matter if it's in Iowa State. Like what do you got here?
I think Kansas State wins.
Ooh, jeez, that's tough. I'm taking Iowa State.
I could see both Arizona State and Iowa State losing, and you'll have Colorado BYU.
That would be crazy. Go back to where it was before last week when
Yes.
they lost.
Yep,
By the way, they both lost.
I know. This is so bad.
Like, how do you lose when it's your chance to go to the playoff? That's why Dion was so pissed.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw him on the sideline, and I
Oh,
was
yeah.
like,
I mean,
wow,
because they got physically beat up by Kansas.
right. Like, no, like, yeah, just dominated. So, yeah, I'm still taking Iowa State there. I think at home, Kansas State's just too up and down for me. Like you never know. Like they lost to two unranked teams. BYU when they were unranked. Now we know BYU is better, but still they haven't lost. They lost to all unranked teams. So yeah, I'm sticking with Ohio State there. All right, so that's college football, HSC podcast. Fantasy football is nuts right now.
Only 3 of 10 teams are
Yeah,
eliminated.
yeah. So let's say that everybody's still in it. I'm gonna pull this up here real quick.
4 8-4 teams, 2 7-5, and a 6-6.
Right. So everybody's just equal. We don't even know who's getting to the playoffs at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be the highest scoring team, lose the next two games, and not go to the playoffs.
Right. Because you got Team Knight and then Big Mike. So you should still, I think you'd be pretty good at least to go 1-1. You should still make it.
Yeah. I mean, I have an 88% chance, which is the highest. You're down to 83 though, which is below Tom.
Well, because I got Legion of Boom, who hasn't changed his roster, but everyone is healthy right now and everything is fine. So,
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting finish. So everybody's within 2 games in my division.
well, what's cool is your sister plays Wes,
Right.
Josh plays Tom, and you play Team Knight. So three of those games are like playoff games right now.
Which is why my percentage is higher is because of who the other people play.
Right.
It's not because of who I play. It's because who they're playing each other. Everybody's below me or equal to me.
That's why I think it's weird that I'm 83% when I'm playing the worst team in the league.
Yeah, but who's your next game? There's 2 games
Oh,
left.
I got your sister.
Right.
But
Who's 7 and 5?
yeah, but if let's I was, I'm always looking at this. If Wes beats your sister and you beat Team Knight
It's over.
and Tom beats Josh,
Right.
then we're
The-
all
yeah, you got the 4 playoff teams. So this week actually is the big week.
it is the big week.
Right. Like this is all or nothing week. That's interesting. Well, Tom like just totally messed me up this week.
Saquon, right?
Well, just in general, but yes, Saquon's getting 50 points. What is it? Yeah, so that was brutal. But he also had AJ Brown and uh, Sutton had 30 points and Jackson Smith and Jigma had 20. Like, I'm just like, what's going on?
Well, and you though you didn't have Burrow or Chase, so
Yeah, and I didn't put Pollard in and like I didn't play the right players, but regardless, I wouldn't have won anyway. You can't win when Saquon gets 50. So this is going to be an interesting finish up to the HSC podcast, fantasy football. We'll get a post a short
I'll
on
I'll
the.
tell you this what I don't like is week 14. So my our last regular season game, Baltimore has a bye.
That's not good for you. I haven't even looked at that. You're right. I should look at that. Like who's playing and who has the best record. So who do I need to sit? Yeah, that's gonna be interesting to watch. So we'll keep you updated. Thanks for watching. So this is for me, I think it's a great time of year. Like we're wrapping up college football, getting into the NFL playoffs, finishing up fantasy football. So this is gonna be fun.
Yes. You got college basketball going on right now. Like,
Yeah. Well, we know like we don't really get interested
yeah.
until
But they got,
March Madness.
what, Las Vegas, almost like an NIL invitational. Did you hear about that?
Yeah,
Like the winning teams are going to get like 1 point something million to disperse between their players.
that's so crazy. Which is why I'm not mad about them playing more games. Like if
Yeah.
you're gonna get paid $7 million a year, like go play more games.
What did the quarterback that's going to Michigan? Did you hear that? How much
Yeah.
he's getting paid? Was it Underwood?
Yeah, it was, jeez. I think it was like 6 million. It was a lot.
It was. 10 million.
10 million. Are you kidding me? So that's like 3 million higher than the highest at this point, right?
Yeah,
So number one was 7 before that.
crazy.
That's crazy. And you're getting that's more than the same as the first round, pick
Right.
in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
So that's a little wild. All right, well, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and like. If you have any comments, leave them in the comments. Any final words?
No, it's going to be interesting next couple weeks for college. It's going to be really interesting.
I actually think that if you're a football fan, like college football is going to be the what to watch for the next couple weeks. So I agree with that. It's gonna be fun to watch. And as much as I'm not a huge fan of when they make changes and committees and voting, things like that, I think it's still a positive thing and that you're making college football better by implementing more teams into the playoff instead of just the top four, like you're going to choose from the SEC and the
Right.
best ones every time. So, all right, well, we'll get back to you next week with the college football update. So we'll see you next time.